It's time for high school football coverage right here on ThreeRiversBroadcasting.com, the new voice of Pittsburgh. The Pigskin Report. We take you around the tri-state area with scores, stats, and interviews right from the gridiron. And now, here are your hosts, Jordan and Alex.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pigskin Report here on Three Rivers Broadcasting. I'm Alex.
I'm Andrew.
And we do not have Jordan. Jordan is missing in action again.
Jordan is in primetime basketball season. Funny story. I have I have a lot of connections in sports and stuff. One of my friends is an amateur boxing promoter.
Nice.
Yeah, so he's looking for girls that do like the ring girl stuff, like they carry the sign around type stuff.
Jordan.
And I asked Jordan, I said, would you be interested? Yeah, if I got the time, I'd do that. So, and it pays really well.
I'm sure it does.
Said,
yeah.
If you want to, make a couple bucks, all you got to do is walk around with,
round two. Yeah.
So she's like, yeah, I'd be interested in that. So
You and I beat up on the younger generation pretty hard about these young kids they don't want to work. I give her credit. She's a worker.
Well, at least she goes to work.
She does.
That's a big. I'll never knock kids for. I guess sometimes it annoys me sometimes that kids don't prioritize things that they probably should. But I'll never knock a kid for working. And she's a kid that plays. She's a full-time college student, full-time Division II athlete in the NAIA, and is working at a restaurant. So, I got no audio.
Oh, I know what's wrong.
What?
Hold on.
Oh,
There you go. Now you're gonna have audio.
yeah,
We're gonna do it live, baby.
Let's try it again.
Now we got audio.
Okay, good.
This is what happens. I was recording my syndicated polka show today, and I had it plugged into the production computer.
Oh, okay.
That one's on me, ladies and gentlemen. But now you can hear Andy fully. So Jordan's going to be. We're going to get her to be a ring girl.
We're trying to get Jordan to potentially be a ring girl, which they run a great promotion and everything. But what I was saying is, I'm never going to knock kids for working.
Me either. No.
She's a full-time student, a full-time college athlete at the Division II level in the NAIA,
yeah.
And she's working at a restaurant, and she's looking for other side gigs to make some extra money. So you can't knock kids for hustling. Yeah, exactly.
She's a hustler. I love it. You know who was hustling tonight? Central Catholic.
Man, they were our Three Rivers Broadcasting reporter, Tom Bakunis, was at the game. And he said to me, he did a great job reporting from the sidelines today. He said to me that, Cannon Mack had some opportunities tonight. In his opinion, it probably could have been 17-14 at the half. They made some mistakes. I think the punter for Cannon Mack actually caught the ball. It was a low snap and caught it with his knee on the ground. So, obviously, they surrendered it down pretty deep in their end.
That's pretty tough.
That was tough for them. They had a missed opportunity in the end zone. So, after you make mistakes against good teams at any level, but particularly in the 6A level against a team like Central Catholic, they're going to make you pay.
They're going to, yeah.
And that's what happened tonight. And there were some interesting games because, if I remember correctly, at the 5A level, I'm pretty sure there was something going on where if Bethel Park won tonight and somebody lost, they got in and all this type of stuff. Well, Bethel played a great game against Upper St. Clair. 21-14, they ended up losing. But I think they needed to have Baldwin lose only by 8 or something, and Baldwin got steamrolled. So
yeah,
so I'll be interested to see what now we know what the brackets are going to be coming out in 5 and 6A.
We'll know probably I guess tomorrow's they give tomorrow in case there's day games, and then we'll know Sunday-ish sometime, Sunday or Monday when the brackets come out exactly who falls where. It's very difficult to follow.
It is weird because why would I was talking to the guys from Bethel Park now in their 5A program, but the way they're explaining this to me, it had something to do with Baldwin that's in the 6A classification.
It's PowerPoint thing,
exactly. And I'm thinking, man, what the heck's it matter? You're in 5A and they're in 6A, but it had something to do with head-to-head and PowerPoints and all this.
Yeah, that's how there's a funky PowerPoint system that I think I don't know if it's uniform across the state. It might be different from district to district, and they use it in New Jersey too. Like if you beat a bigger school, you get more points, and then depending on how they do, you can get residual points. It's really difficult to follow, so it's hard to pin out who's going to fall where in the tournament. I personally, how about the idea of, the top 2 in each class make, in each division make the playoffs, and then you have like 2 wild card teams? Is that where we're at? Like, is Bethel Park playing for a wild card position essentially?
Bethel Park finishes 5-5. This is a crazy stat. They forced 20.8 points per game and gave up 20.
I mean, that's talk about a razor thin margin on your season. Yeah. I mean, that's your difference between a 8-2 season and that it comes down to literally less than you're talking of less than a field goal a game, give or take.
I mean
touchdown.
That's the average.
Yeah,
I'm on the Post Gazette website checking that out.
Yeah,
that's what they do a pretty good job on.
Stats
and stuff, but that's a crazy stat. Points force, and then maybe I don't know. That seems. I guess that's right. They forced 208 and they allowed 200. So yeah, it's razor thin. You can't be any thinner than that.
No. In the 5A classification, I went to Peters Township, South Fayette tonight. Nice.
What do you think of that stadium?
Beautiful stadium. Yeah. I tell you, I've seen some good ones. I've got my, kind of my favorites, and I tend to like the. You and I talked about in the preseason. I like the older stadiums better. Yeah. There's something nice about like the Wolverina. Yeah,
I think it sucks about the Wolverina is you can't. The parking there.
It's terrible,
and it's not. These days, it's not a great area. So, if you're parking far away from the stadium, a lot of people don't want to make that walk for safety reasons. Yeah. But yeah, it's a great place.
It is. It's still.
I always enjoyed going to games at Aliquippa.
Oh, the Pit.
The Pit's pretty cool place. Wash High is a cool place.
Isn't like half the Pit condemned at this point? Don't they have can't you not sit on half the stadium? Then they knock it down or something. Yeah.
There. They haven't been able to keep the grass really the way it needs to be kept, and but there's a tradition aspect to that place, so it's kind of cool to go. But there's a lot of Western PA, I would say, is more well known for the football stadiums around here at the high school level than basketball, because we have a couple of cool basketball gyms.
Beaver Falls,
Beaver Falls, Wash High.
Yep.
Obviously the new Bethel Park and
Peters beautiful.
Township
They're beautiful gyms. Yeah.
But overall, most of them are pretty Matchbox standard type crap. But when it comes to football, there are some pretty cool ones in our area.
It is not like the Philadelphia Public League in basketball, where one dribble you're at half court and then one dribble you're at the basket. I
remember hearing a story years ago that they used to have a high school at St. Mary of the Mount up in Mount Washington.
Okay.
And the old gymnasium there, I played in it when I was a kid, but they rebuilt it and they built a pretty nice one and everything. But from what I was told, that the old gymnasium used to have pillars in the middle of the gym to keep the roof up. And guys would use this as like an extra screen.
Yeah, I like that.
Going around there. Oh, well, that's run into a wall or something. But yeah, that definitely had some unique quirks and things of that nature when you were playing high school basketball, in the 1950s.
Yeah, those were the days. But yeah, listen, South Fayette, beautiful stadium. Came up on the short end tonight. Peters Township pushed them around on the line. And on both sides of the ball, they got a good push on the offensive front. Defensively, South Fayette's line struggled to pass protect for a quarterback who was fantastic. This kid that they have down there.
Yeah, we talked about him on the Three Rivers Broadcasting Sports Report. I think he's a prime-time Division I caliber quarterback. He has the body, 6'6", rocket arm. As you said tonight, I just don't think he has the line protection. It's kind of like a Steelers situation, only he's a lot more mobile and agile than Big Ben.
Yeah.
But the line isn't there, and in years past, obviously Ben hasn't had a good run game. He does this year, but South Fayette is definitely lacking in the run game, which is kind of not the norm there. They usually have a pretty good running back.
Yeah, they do. They really leaned on Landon Lutz a lot, but again, he's 6'6", 230. This guy, and he could roll out.
Yeah.
I was watching as the pocket was breaking down. He saw it coming, and he started rolling the by time, but his receivers just couldn't get open.
So much, yeah.
Yeah, so again, they're going to bring back a good amount of players next year who are on the line. A lot of freshmen and sophomores and juniors playing on both sides of the ball. if you look at the senior class there, I was looking at it, there's only like 9 seniors on the team. There's like 20 freshmen. They're a young team. So I would fully expect that Joe Rossi's going to have a winner there in very, very short order. So they finished bottom of the Allegheny 6 at 0-5. This is not a position that South Fayette is used to being in. But how about, listen, Moon Township had a great year, closed out with a win over West Allegheny tonight.
Well, how about, before we get into 5, how about I read off 6?
Let's do, read off 6. Yeah.
So we had this evening in 6A, we had Norwin over Hempfield 27-7. Norwin finishes the season pretty strong. I mean, they were in the kind of in the bottom for a while, and I think they racked off 2 wins in a row, if I remember correctly.
They beat Cannon-Mac and they beat Hempfield.
So good for them. North Allegheny actually goes down tonight, 17-12 at Seneca Valley. Lebo does what Lebo does. Big win tonight, 35-7. I think they even took it kind of easy on Baldwin at the end of the game, and they're a prime time, state championship contender. And what would you expect with Bob Palco at the helm? You're going to have a quality program. And of course, we already talked about it. Central Catholic big over Cannon McMillan this evening, 54-14.
I think Mount Lebanon, for most people that you talk to, they're in the top 5 in the state right now.
I would agree.
They're up there with St. Joe's and some of those schools out of Philadelphia who are very, very good. I think, we obviously don't produce a top 5 for the state, but if I was going to, and I follow high school football a little bit, there's some areas that are a little weak. I would have Mount Lebanon in the 6A. Yeah. I'd certainly have them in the 6A top 5, and Central Catholic would be poking around the top 10 too. So those playoffs, I guess, they're set. I think it's only 4 teams that are going to make it.
I think you're right.
So that'll be. That'll be some good battles. I would expect. You're obviously expecting Lebo Central again in the final. And it'll be interesting to see how Terry Totten rebounds to take on that contest. Again, we kind of ran through the Allegheny 6. We ran through those 3 games in the Big East Conference, not the basketball conference, but the Big East.
I wish we still had.
Yes. Yeah. I wish the old Big East was still together, and I think. I know they made a lot of money, but part of me wonders if the coaches, a lot of those old Big East schools, were wishing they were still in the Big East, specifically football and basketball.
Yeah, on the basketball side, it really hurt teams like Pitt. I don't necessarily think. Obviously, Syracuse has been okay on the basketball side.
Yeah, they've been okay on the basketball side.
But yeah, I mean, I miss some of those rivalries.
Pitt, West Virginia.
Yeah, Pitt, West Virginia. And shout out to Pitt this year. They did Pitt. I mean, if they didn't lose to Western Michigan, we're talking maybe a top 15, maybe top 10 team in the country.
Yeah.
Still, I think 17 right now, so they're cruising. But Pitt always does one of those where they lose one of those games that they should, and it costs them in the national rankings. But from a football perspective, they are really, really cruising right now. So we'll keep an eye on that as we talk about it. We missed the report this week, but that's because we're kind of reorganizing stuff. We got meetings going on. And,
very busy.
I'm taking over as a basketball coach, so I told you I'll be in and out. So we do what we can do.
We're going to do what we can do. Things are very, very busy here right now and picking up. And I already know that I'm booked, Monday, Tuesday into Wednesday. So we'll figure out where the Three Rivers Broadcasting Sports Report taping will come in.
Yeah,
it'll happen somewhere. Yeah, somewhere. It might one week.
You can't let the fans of the truth down.
Well, see, that's what I was going to say. Maybe one week it'll be me and the truth. One week it might be you and the truth. Some weeks it might be you and me without the truth. Some weeks maybe the truth needs to come in here alone and do the show. Yep. We'll have Truth and Paul.
I'm actually looking to see where the truth teaches at, how they did tonight.
We'll get down there, right?
We're gonna get down there. I don't know if they played tonight, so we'll.
Were they off? Maybe they're the Saturday game.
They might have had. They could have had a. Yeah, that's right. They could have had a Saturday game.
Let's take a look. I'm gonna look ahead here tomorrow, and then we'll keep reading off some of those 5As. Where is this? Why is the computer is being very pesky here tonight? Okay, let's take a look. Yeah. They play Seton LaSalle tomorrow at 7.
Okay.
That game is that game will be up at Dormont.
Okay.
There's actually a host of games tomorrow. You got Shadyside and Summit Academy, Brentwood Seton LaSalle's a night game, Southside Beaver, Western Beaver, Springdale Riverview is at noon, and then we've got Dyson House at 2:00. Yeah. And we'll have that game on ThreeRiversBroadcasting.com. So
how about we bust out the 5A scores tonight, since we've been doing a lot of talk about that?
Yeah. Let's go Big East Conference.
Okay.
I'll read them off. You want to take the next one after that? We'll go Gateway 56, Jordan's alma mater, Franklin Regional 9. Sorry about that one. Penn Trafford all over Latrobe 42-0. Woodland Hills ends with a nice win over Connellsville. That score 42-7. Penn Trafford finishes the season 8-2. Very, very good season for them out in Westmoreland County. Gateway, a respectable 7-3. You have to think at the same time they would, in their minds, think they could have been 10-0.
Yeah, I would think so.
Three very close losses. TJ by a score, Latrobe, Penn Trafford by 5, and Pine Richland, by two scores. They have to think they probably could have done touch better. But again, they're going to be two tough teams in the 5A playoffs.
I agree. You want to knock out Northeast?
Yeah, let's knock out Northeast.
Let's go Pine Richland 36-7 at Fox Chapel. Penn Hills takes down Kiski area 42-22, and North Hills convincingly over Shaler at Shaler 49-19. North Hills having a nice resurgence as a football program.
Yes.
Finished the season 7-3, 4-1 in conference. Definitely should be in the playoffs if I had to guess, which I love seeing. North Hills is another great stadium if you've ever been out.
Yes.
Out
I've
there.
seen it.
Great tradition, LeVar Arrington. I love seeing North Hills getting back to business.
And I think over the course of the last 5 weeks, as great as they started, Kiski area probably played themselves out of the playoffs. Or they'll be a low seed if they sneak in.
Yeah, I mean they finished the season 6-4, but they're not going to get in. They're 1-4 in their conference.
Yeah, so that's probably going to knock them out. Yeah, so
they shouldn't be in.
No,
why should you be in at 1-4 in your conference?
I agree. And I get then I guess you could do the whole who did they play outside the conference? Butler, Franklin, Latrobe, Connellsville, West Al, maybe not the toughest.
Well, it's like I said to my team the other day. I said, hey, we were going kind of going through our schedule a little bit. I said, I don't really care about any of these non-conference games at all. I only care about our section games.
Yeah.
And most high school coaches are that way because the section games are what get you into the playoffs.
Yeah.
So if you don't win your section games, conference games, it doesn't matter.
That's it. I mean, and I guess in basketball, you can kind of backdoor your way in if you're 11-11. Or 500 in your.
You can be under 500 as long as you win your
conference
top
games.
4 in your conference.
Okay. Yeah. So then, those are really the only games that matter. Yeah. So, should we move on now to 4A? We'll go to the Big 8 conference.
With only 6 teams tonight.
With only 6 teams tonight. Thomas Jefferson 49-0 over West Mifflin. Rounding out a strong regular season. Trinity beat Ringgold 28-7, and then the game of the week turned out to be, for I believe the 3rd week in a row, the not game of the week, as Bell Vernon stepped on McKeesport 46-14. They were up, I believe it was 28-0 in the first quarter.
I'm looking at the Big 8 right now, and there's only 7 teams in the Big 8.
I believe that's where Gallatin or Uniontown would have been.
Yeah. I think
it's one of those two. I think
so they might want to reconsider that name. They could be the Big 7,
the Big
or the
7.
Medium 7, or
whatever. Something like
that. But they're no
no
longer the Big 8.
No, not the Big 8 anymore. No, and but yeah, listen, Bell Vernon runs the table in what was on paper probably the most competitive of the 4, and and I still think the most top heavy. But we learned again that Laurel Highlands is a step behind over the course of the last month of the season, and now we learned that McKeesport is a step behind as well. I mean, Bell Vernon, absolutely fantastic. Devin Whitlock, great quarterback, good basketball player as well, great athlete.
Yeah. He's getting a lot of preferred walk-on opportunities at some big-time schools. If I'm a big-time school, and maybe, it's a scholarship thing because we're at the end of the year, he's a 2022, he can be a specialist or a receiver at some of these schools.
I think so.
And I think you say, hey, I need this guy to be the punt returner.
Fantastic option.
Yeah, I'd get him on my roster if I were them. Figure it out.
Yes. And, I've talked to somebody at the City League last week, and they had mentioned him. I said, where I think he would be a great quarterback, Naval Academy.
I
don't
can
know.
see that.
I don't know what his grades are like, but
Yeah.
he's smaller. They always tend to have a quarterback who's like 5'10"
Yeah.
at Navy and really fast who can run that option.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know what his grades are or if he'd like to serve the country or not, but I think he'd be a good fit at a place like Army or Navy who runs that like kind of
Yeah, I
veer
agree.
option kind
I
of
agree.
offense. But Bell Vernon's rolling into the playoffs right now, looking very, very good. You want to take Greater
Yeah,
Allegheny?
let's do it. We had Mars tonight going down at Hampton 48-14. Knock falls to Highlands 33-13. Armstrong, which had a great season
Yes.
this year, they take down Indiana 42-22. They finished the season 7-3. I don't know if you've ever been out to Armstrong. Very impressive facilities. It's one of those schools you kind of grow up not thinking a lot about. I don't know if you know a lot about them, but they merged.
That was the merger
Yeah, right.
of I forget who was out there. Oh man, it was two towns.
Yeah, but it is nice. They have a nice
Yeah.
gymnasium. They really have a great athletic program. And Plum in a nice game tonight over Greensburg-Salem. They pull it out 30-27.
Nice. So, listen, I think that's nice to end the season for Plum on a win. Hampton 10-0. Probably looking at the number 1 seed, at worst number 2 with it's gonna be them or Bell Vernon for the top spot in the playoffs there. The Aliquippa, might be able to make a case for themselves. That was it was Ford City and Katanning, right?
That sounds right.
I think it was
Yeah,
Ford
that
City and
sounds right.
Katanning were the two.
Some of these schools, if you don't live in the area, they just kind of pop up on you. Like,
Deer Lakes.
when I was a kid, we used to play Monaca High School.
Right.
Well, Monaca High School merged
With
and
Center.
became Central
Yeah.
Valley. Yeah. So, you're just like, Central Valley, where the heck did they – well, that's where they came from. So,
Yeah.
if you don't – it's like out of sight, out of mind. But then they start really doing a lot of damage. Schools like Central Valley, schools like Armstrong, and you're like, whoa, where'd they come from? And, yeah, they're a merged school.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you and I talked about this off the air last week when we were on the phone. This is probably a good time to drop it. This topic where we were talking about some potential mergers. You may not see them, at least not for a while, but there are some real powerhouse mergers out there. The idea of, Clairton and TJ.
Would be interesting.
A theoretically possible merger.
I'll give you. You might not know all of them because you're not from the area. But I'll give you some
Monessen and Bell Vernon.
Here's one that a lot of people have talked about for years. There's been articles written about it. It's a constant fight. But one of the really interesting ones that everybody talks about in our area is Montour and Stowe Ross.
Absolutely, that is a state powerhouse program waiting to happen.
It sure would be.
Yeah. And again, you'd have to think Clairton. That Clairton TJ merger could be a real power too, and that's already two major programs. There's a few of them that are out there that could be, and maybe down the road 5-10 years, depending on what the population shifts look like, they may have to entertain them.
Yeah, you would. I think so. I think it's
Is there an Aliquippa Hopewell merger in the offing? I mean, it
Makes
benefits.
sense.
It would benefit Hopewell probably more than it would benefit Aliquippa football wise.
Yeah,
but,
well, yeah. I mean, yes and no. I mean, I think a Hopewell merger also benefits the Aliquippa kids from an education standpoint.
Yes, it does.
That's at the end of the day what it should come.
What it should come
Are
down
you
to,
ready
yeah.
for CEO's New Jersey championship score tonight?
Yeah, which one's he got?
He got Rutherford 27, Park Ridge 20.
Yeah, okay. So we used to live in Rutherford.
There you go.
So Rutherford, they're one of the top small schools in the state.
I'm assuming close to Rutgers.
No.
No.
Okay. Rutherford's North Jersey, Bergen County.
Okay.
It's a nice little town there. They used to be.
Well, how long is this when your mother worked at Rutgers, or?
She still works at Rutgers.
Well, how far did it take her to get to Rutgers from there?
We live in Middletown.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
That's where Sarah and I used to work. We were
okay.
up there.
I see.
And Rutherford they were like Southern Columbia in like the 30s.
I see.
Like before Southern Columbia kicked the crap out of everybody in Pennsylvania, like a Clairton. Rutherford did it in New Jersey, where they were out. They had some like 80 game winning streak or something that was ridiculous under a guy named Ed Tryon. The stadium's named after him, but that's a little small. They have this like small school league up there, which is like all the Class A schools.
Yeah.
And so they have a 7-game season, and then they have like a 2-game mini playoff before the state tournament. And so the final was at Rutherford tonight, and so that's they win that tournament pretty frequently.
I can tell you, as former college coach, it's always interesting going and recruiting kids from different areas because every single area does stuff differently.
They do.
And just when you think you have something that kind of makes sense and you have it
There's
down.
something totally different.
Yeah, I remember one time I was recruiting up in before we get back to the scores.
Yeah.
I was recruiting up in Erie one time, and I was one of the kids invited me from Harbor Creek.
Okay.
So hey, we're going to be playing a game. It's like a district game, and it's at this high school. So they invite me to the game. Okay, I'll come out and check you guys out. Well, little did I know it was their district championships. And so I go to this high school. There's no the tickets weren't saying like, hey, district
final, yeah.
I'm expecting like it's Whippeal style where, they're going to have, the lights off and it's starting introductions and all this type of stuff. So they end up winning the game. They go crazy. They give these kids the trophy and they're rushing them off the floor like it didn't even happen.
Okay.
I'm like, hold on, they just won the district championship.
That's important, yeah.
It was crazy. So, you start appreciating different districts and how they do things more than other districts because, you get spoiled seeing some districts really value. Now, I will say in the basketball side, I think we overvalue the Whippeal championship.
Yes.
And this has hurt a lot of teams in our area in District 7 going in the States because they feel like, oh, we won the Whippeal. Okay.
Now you got to go
satisfied with that.
Now you got to go play Reading.
Yeah.
They're
satisfied with it because, they're playing at the Peterson Event Center and all this stuff.
Yep.
But hey, guys, I'm telling you right now, if you're a high school kid watching this, the goal is to win the state championship, not just the district.
You want to get to Hershey.
Yeah.
Hershey is the goal. I mean, and that's a very difficult mountain to climb with 6 classifications now. I think it was actually a little easier with 4 because you had District 3 and District 1 pegged on the other side of the state. Yeah,
you guys, I saw you and Billy got into that a little bit. I personally don't believe in 6 classifications. I think 5 would be more than adequate.
Yeah.
There's some other states that are same size as we are, and five works.
Yeah.
But 6 is a little too big for me. But hey, they also have to sell tickets and make money and all that. So I get it. It's a business. High school sports is a business.
It is.
So.
It's a big business.
Let's get into
Parkway.
Yeah, let's do Parkway.
All right, Blackhawk against Beaver. Beaver 23-21 over Blackhawk. Charval goes down to Montour, team we just talked about. Aliquippa poured it on tonight against Newcastle, 63-6. So the Quips win the division, and listen, Aliquippa could probably win the division in 5A and probably even compete for top 3 or 4 in 6A.
Yeah, I'm looking at let's see how Parkway finished up. Aliquippa, obviously, Beaver finishes 7-2, and Newcastle 6-4. What happened to Newcastle tonight?
Good question.
Yeah, I mean, I know they're playing Aliquippa, but they got massacred, and
they're usually a very tough.
Yeah, unless maybe they're happy they got in, and but that's pretty. Yeah, I'm surprised with that score.
Both times they stepped up. Central Valley 56-7, Aliquippa 63-6.
Yeah.
So maybe they're missing just something a little extra there,
yeah.
but they did win the games they were supposed to win. They were closer than they normally are for Newcastle, but they got the wins. And, they finished the 6-4 record, and with 8 teams, they got a shot.
Yep,
they got a shot to potentially make the playoffs.
Let's go 3A. Allegheny 7.
All right,
Derry falls to North Catholic big time, 67-13. Freeport shuts out Deer Lakes 35-0, and a nice close game tonight between Burrell and Valley. Burrell gets the upper hand 19-14.
I like to see close games later in the season.
So do I, yeah. Some of these teams, like we said, we don't know everything happening. Some of these teams were playing to get into Whippeal playoffs tonight.
Yeah,
so,
they were. Yeah,
you could tell by these scores.
Yeah, and AAA is a very interesting classification. Out of all 6, I think it's – I don't know if you want to say it's the weakest, but they didn't perform the best outside of their divisions.
Yeah, I don't know if it's weak or if maybe you have more parity in it.
Yeah, parity, yeah. So, but, I think it's very clear North Catholic and Central Valley are at the top of that class.
I hear Central Valley is moving up to 4. So.
Yeah, I think the competitive balance thing Billy had mentioned, they maybe have to
I think it's numbers. They're up on numbers.
They're growing up. Okay, yeah. Well, I could see that. So there's people moving up into Beaver County in larger, larger numbers right now. Interstate Conference 21-7. South Allegheny defeats Mount Pleasant. Southmoreland finishes a pretty decent season by doubling up South Park 28-14. They finished 7-3, and then Elizabeth Forward won the division, defeated Yock 49-8. Yock finishes 1-9 on the season. South Allegheny going 4-6, and Mount Pleasant 5 8-4. Brownsville 0-7, and Brownsville is one of those programs that I think we're rooting for.
Yeah,
got to get it back on there. They only scored 32 points this season and had 2 games postponed, so they go they go winless to end the season there.
Yeah, we'll finish up in 3A in the Northwestern 6. Keystone Oaks, not a bad season for Keystone Oaks. They take down Ambridge 27-7.
They're always tough.
Yeah, they usually are. They've had a couple bad years, but I like their local team, very close to us, so I always like seeing the Eagles do well. And we also have Billy, another Billy from Point Park, who's a statistician for Keystone Oaks, who does a great job reporting scores in and giving us updates. So I appreciate all the work he's done for us this year. Avonworth, big over Quaker Valley, 40-0. Really tough year for Quaker Valley, which is not the norm. That's usually a powerhouse football program. And, of course, Central Valley, 47-6 over Hopewell.
We'll move now down to the AA Allegheny Conference. One of the other kind of games of the day that turned out to be a not game of the day. Steel Valley 28, Sarah Catholic 7.
Good thing you didn't go.
Good thing I didn't go. Steel Valley finishes undefeated, and then Ligonier beat Apollo Ridge, who's in rebuilding mode right now. That final score was 48-22. Apollo Ridge will be back. I got to see some of those young kids play in the garbage, like kind of the garbage minutes, if you will, last year, wiping up the big blowout wins they had. They're going to be pretty good. Just a lot of freshmen and sophomores playing for them, so they'll be all right. And Steel Valley, it's a statement win for them.
Yeah, I agree.
Finish on, they bookend it. Beat Clareton to start, beat Sarah to finish. That's they're going to be a team to watch. And then you want to take Century? Yeah,
let's take the Century. Charleroi takes down Fraser 33-6. Wash had a really good game against my now employer McGuffey. 41-34. I know Coach Stolten's not going to be happy with that, but they had some injuries at McGuffey, but a really good year. I mean, and I think they should get into the playoffs for the Highlanders. Let me see where we're at on there. 5-5, 4-2. So I'm hoping they'll get in. And that game was as good as expected. Touchdown away from going either way. So a really good game there. And then Beth Center takes down Waynesburg 32-22.
So that last playoff spot probably going to come down to McGuffey and Keystone Oaks, who are both 5-5.
Yeah, I would be interested. How did KO finish in conference?
KO finished 3-2.
3-2. So McGuffey has the edge in conference play with an extra win.
Yeah.
But they played another game.
It's going to come down to power